Howdy, boys. UFC Fight Night, Brandon Royval versus Taira just ended. Overall, a pretty good card. Better than I expect. Well, I won't even say better than I expected. Most cards that are pretty mid on name value or people aren't too hyped for end up turning out pretty good. And this one did so. I enjoyed it throughout for the most part. There were a few fights that I thought were boring, kind of shit. But yeah, before we get into this, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, you know, all that bullshit. And yeah. First fight of the night was Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha. This is a pretty damn good fight. It was entertaining. I went with Rocha because I just wasn't familiar with Clayton's game. Round one, started swinging early. I thought Lucas was getting the better of the striking. Eventually, Clayton got him down. His grappling looked really good. He was very heavy on him. Even though Rocha was active, Clayton was always a step ahead. Opened him up in round one with an elbow. He didn't have a lot of volume with his ground and pound, but what there was very effective. Round one ended on the ground. I gave it 10-9 for Clayton. Round two, once again, at the start, they were swinging early. Thought Rocha was winning again. He even seemed to rock him with a flying knee into I think it was a left hook. I can't remember though. But just didn't follow it up well enough to do anything with it. Clayton got the takedown again. Really easy. His grappling looked fucking phenomenal. Found the back, got the body triangle, and the sub was right there. Honestly, if he can keep doing this at flyweight, he could potentially be a bit of a problem. His grappling just looked fucking exceptional. He was kind of slowing down a little bit, it seemed, already in round two, and it was a decently high-paced round one. But that could be somewhat worrying at flyweight. He is very big for flyweight, I'll say. He's built like a brick shithouse. But nonetheless, good win for him. It made it look somewhat easy on the ground, and Rocha's no slouch on the ground. He was extremely active, but Clayton gets it done. Round two, rear naked. Second fight on the card was Dan Argueta versus Cody Haddon. Cody ended up getting it done by decision. Very fun fight. Crazy pace they pushed. Cody walked forward the entire time, kind of marauding his way towards Dan Argueta, throwing combos the entire time. Looked really good for the most part, although he definitely did expose some holes in his game. Like his striking defense was just not there hardly at all. He actually managed to get some head movement in the third round when Dan was a little more tired, and he was probably used to the combos and shots Dan was throwing. But throughout it, he just did not respect Dan's striking at all. Hands down for 15 minutes. But his striking did look good. He had some nice combos, odd punches. He did look a little sloppy in the beginning, and they obviously got really sloppy at the end in the third round. But I was kind of nervous in round one when it started because, like I said, he just kept his fucking hands down. He was just walking forward, winging punches. And like the first fight on the card, they started fast. Like as soon as the bell rang, they were out there just fucking swinging and banging. His grappling also looked really good, too. He managed a good takedown in round two. Dan ended up getting to his feet while Cody was backpacking him and reversed it from there. But he didn't get in any trouble on the ground with Dan. Takedown defense was also really good. Overall, very fun fight. Excited to see where Haddon goes from here. Third fight on the card, Julia Palastri versus Corey McKenna. Overall, this wasn't a bad fight, but coming right after the two really fun fights at the start of the card, by comparison, this fight was pretty shit. Julia gets it done by a decision. I went with Corey. I thought she would be a little more prepared since this was short notice for Julia. There were moments in round two and one where it was a bit of a clinch fest, and I was kind of just zoning out during those. I did think that Julia was landing the heavier shots when they were striking. And yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say about this fight. I really wasn't that interested. It was alright. Fourth fight on the card, Junior Tapa versus Sean Shariff. I didn't realize that this was a late notice replacement. I thought it was still Chris Barnett until they were walking out. I had chose Junior Tafa, and I probably would have chosen him for this fight too. He got it done by round 2 TKO. And holy shit, this was a battle of pigs. My god, they fucking nearly died to cardiac arrest at the start of round 2. They could barely stand up or even throw a punch at one point. About a minute into round 2, they were just standing and looking at one another, and Mark Smith was telling them to work. Round 1 was pretty fun. It was pretty exciting. They threw a lot in round 1 for heavyweights, and especially out-of-weight, fat heavyweights. Sean should have stuck to his leg kicks. I think he landed every leg kick he threw, and Tafa had absolutely no answer for it. But he ended up just gassing. I definitely think if he could... He shot a pretty decent takedown early on in round 1, and Tafa cage grabbed twice, and Mark Smith just fucking, like Stevie Wonder, was too blind to goddamn see it. Egregious. Ridiculous. Honestly, could have taken a fucking point for it, or put him back in position for a takedown. If Sean could have got a takedown earlier and actually did some work, he maybe could have done a little better, but he was so fucking gassed at the start of round 2. He did get a late takedown and was doing work. He was landing some really good ground and pound, but it just wasn't enough. Tafa eventually started to take over. Pretty fun fight. Very sloppy, though. I don't know. I was going to say excited to see them later on in the UFC, but I fucking hate Junior Tafa. Don't like either Tafa brothers. And Sean's got that... He's got worse cardio than Gaziev, so I don't think he'll be going too far up the rankings. 5th fight on the card, Nico Price versus Thimba Garimbo. I went with Thimba Garimbo because I thought Nico was getting pretty washed, and I feel I was justified in that because he looked fucking washed. And Thimba looked shit. Overall, I thought this was a pretty fucking boring fight. Their striking was fucking lazy, slow, sloppy. The grappling was pretty uneventful. Barely any ground and pound. I don't see Thimba going too far in the welterweight rankings. I think he's eventually going to get fucking starched somewhere along the way. And I don't see where fucking Nico goes from here besides in retirement. He looks shit. 6th fight on the card, Pat Sabatini versus JSP. I had chose JSP. I thought he had managed to hurt Pat Sabatini a few times in the fight, but that's not what happened at all. As soon as the fight started, it was a grappling match. Complete domination for Pat Sabatini. I don't think he ever got separated from Jonathan once. Easy win for him. Took no damage. Not much else to say. 7th fight on the card, CJ Vergara versus Ramazan Tamirov. Fuck me, man. I went with CJ because I just didn't know anything about Ramazan. And my God, he's fucking like a little Wolverine, dude. Throws huge looping, winging strikes with every bit of his power into them. Built like a mini fridge. It's kind of demolished CJ. Hurt him and just didn't let up. Looked really good. I'm trying to find more things to say because it was a pretty short fight. I don't know. He fucking looked good. What else is there to say? I'm excited to see him more in flyweight. Opener of the main card, Daniel Rodriguez versus Alex Morono. I went with Daniel Rodriguez, but I don't think he won. I don't necessarily think this was a robbery. It was a very close fight. But I gave round 1 and 2 to Morono. Potentially even round 3. Although Daniel did rock him in round 3. I still thought Alex outlanded him every single round. I thought they were counting shots for Daniel that weren't landing. In the predictions, I chose Daniel because I figured he would be too powerful and use his range better than he did. He didn't really. They both were staying in the pocket a little too long. But as always, Alex looked really good. I just wish he had some actual pop in his punches. If he could hit like Dustin Poirier, goddamn, he'd be a force to be reckoned with. He's so technical, but he just can't hurt a fucking fly. Overall, a decent fight. Not the greatest. And yeah, I don't think Rodriguez won. So it kind of stains that fight for me. Second fight on the main card was Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia. I went with Grant Dawson. I thought he would just use his wrestling and end up getting a decision. But he was landing some really good ground and pound while he was on the ground, and it pretty much entirely was. In the first minute of round 1 and 2, he got a easy takedown, little to no resistance, and just stayed on top. I don't think Hoffa ever got out of full guard or half guard. Grant was landing some really good elbows, and he cut him open in round 2. I don't know how he did. I imagine it was from an elbow, but I just didn't see it. And when he was transitioning to the back, I noticed Hoffa was bleeding profusely. And then Dawson smelled blood and just started throwing. Didn't stop. Hoffa couldn't defend himself. Ref called it off. Third fight on the main card, Chidi Njokuani versus Jared Gooden. I went with Chidi Njokuani. He got it done by unanimous decision. This fight was 75% a clinch fest, which was pretty boring. I mean, Chidi was landing good shots, landing big knees and good over-the-top elbows, and I think they're called tomahawk elbows, but it was just pretty boring. Gooden didn't have much to offer in the clinch. I don't know how he couldn't escape it. He was kind of hitting a bit of an Aldo there. The striking, when it was happening, it was decent, and the grappling was also pretty decent, but just not exciting, man. I thought it'd be a little more fun than that. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know. Don't really have much else to say. I was almost fucking falling asleep watching it at points. In the co-main event, Brad Tavares versus Jun Young Park. I went with Brad Tavares. I thought he would possibly be able to KO Jun Young Park, but didn't happen. Almost did. In round 1, the very first exchange, Brad threw a 1-2 and knocked Jun Young Park down. Followed up and tried to get a submission, which I think was a mistake. He should have stood it back up. But that's just the fucking curse of strikers. Strikers always do that shit. They hurt someone and then have to go to the ground because they're brain dead. Regardless, he did win round 1. Though in round 2, Park started implementing his jab a lot more. It was doing a bit of damage. I gave him round 2, although it was definitely the swing round of the fight. And then in round 3, Park got an early... He hurt him with some combo. I didn't really see what landed. And then followed it up with a takedown. I thought Tavares' takedown defense would hold up, but it didn't for round 3. Got taken down, then Park remained heavy, rode out the round on top, and got that round 2-1 for Park. Good fight overall. Not bad. Round 3 was a little boring. And in the main card, Brandon Royval versus Tatsuro Taira. This is a fucking great fight, honestly. Grapple haters probably won't like it, but I thought it was a really good fight. A pretty close one, too. I think both guys' stock went up. They had some heart on display. Excellent grappling from Tatsuro. Insane submission defense from Royval. Round 1 was pretty close. Could have went either way. Royval had more volume in the striking, and I thought Tatsuro was doing decent. He landed some pretty big shots. Round 2 wasn't even close. It was easy for Tatsuro. Complete grappling dominance. If there was ever a call for a 10-8 round just from pure grappling, it'd be that. Round 3, he went for a takedown and got clipped by a knee. And from there, Royval was just pouring on. Easy Royval round for me. Fourth round, another pretty clear Tatsuro round. Very grappling heavy. Pretty dominant. Not as dominant as round 2, though. And then 5, I'd probably also give that to Royval. So round 1 is the deciding factor in it. But, man, pretty good fight overall. I'm excited to see both of these guys return. Royval didn't... I wouldn't say he took too much damage. He's got a shiner and a mouse, but Tatsuro probably going to take a while before he comes back. He needs to work on his striking defense. It was not up to par, and Royval is one of the better strikers in the top 15 of flyweight, so it's not too bad of a look to be getting pieced up by him. He's got slick, odd striking. But if Taira goes against someone who's got some real power, like a Kai Kara France, he'd be in some trouble. But overall, a really good fight. That's pretty much all I got to say for this card. If you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe. Otherwise, I will see you later. Godspeed, cunts.